Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab lab. This is the video number 46. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. I have been working to secure our Windows Server 2019 environment based on the recommendations of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. We have been working now for 15 videos on this topic to secure our Windows Server 2019 environment. Servers we mean, and we have discussed a lot of concepts. We have stopped the last video. This is the video number 16, of course, and we have stopped at the last time at this recommendation. Windows Server 2019 setting Microsoft Network Server digitally signed communications always must be configured to enable. So here we need to secure always the connection between our servers. So how we can secure the connections to our servers or between our servers is to digitally sign the data sent between the servers and the workstations, or between the servers and the servers. Okay, so this, what we mean by sign, it means that every packet is having like a special, let's see, special thing, something like a ring or something like a stamp, something to differentiate the data, okay, and to make it unique, so a hacker cannot change it, okay, or cannot manipulate it. So if he manipulate it, okay, we will know because our packets are signed, okay, with a stamp. Okay, what is first, he is saying that the server message block protocol provides basic for many network operations. What is the SMB? Okay, the SMB, it is, as I say, a network file sharing protocol that allows applications on a computer to read and write to files and request services from server programs in a computer network. Another thing, the SMB protocol enable applications and their users to access files on remote servers. So this is basically a protocol used with our file server. So this protocol helps the users to access our file server and access shared folders, okay, and write to them and save to them. So this recommendation says that we should secure the access to our file server, okay, and the data on our file server. How we can secure this? By signing the data, okay, sent during the accessing of the file server. So he's saying here the server message block protocol provides the basis for many network operation, digitally signing SMB packets, which is as I said before, used with the file server. So let's have a scenario. A client is trying to access a file server. This file server contains a shared folder the user wants to access. So the data sent between the client and the server or the file server should be signed, okay, and signing these packets, it will secure the data and prevent man-in-the-middle attack. If this policy is enabled, SMB server will only communicate with an SMB client that performs packet signing. So both sides should perform or should sign the packets. So the client should sign the packets sent from him to the server, and the server should sign the packets sent from it to the client. Okay, so here we need to digitally sign communication always, okay, between the server and the client. This option is always. There is another option called when possible, because some clients could not sign the packets, okay, because it doesn't have the services to allow it to do it, or the server at the same time also can't have the services to allow it to sign the packages anyway. So we will enable this option, okay, digitally sign, and then we will go to the next recommendation. It says sign communication if client agrees. So here he is having a condition. Signing the communication will not be allowed unless the client agrees. Okay, so we have another recommendation saying that signing the packets will not be allowed unless the server agrees, and there is another one if the client agrees. So here he is giving options or alternatives if both client and server doesn't have a way to sign the packets. you are still allowed to communicate between each other, okay, even though the connection will not be secure. Anyway, so we will also enable this option. We go and enable this option by digitally or network server. Here is saying that the server will sign the packets, or the file server will sign the packets if the client agrees. Okay, so this is the next recommendation. And then here we're saying that Windows Server 2019 must not allow anonymous SID name translation. What is SID translation? We all know that every object in the Active Directory and every object in the Windows environment have a name and have an SID, or something called service identifier. Okay, so every object in the Windows, or every object in the Active Directory, something like a computer, a user, or a group, it has a name and it has an SID, or a unique number. Okay, so here is saying that allowing anonymous translation. What means by translation of SID? It means translating the name of the object to its SID or to its unique number. Okay, so it's saying allowing anonymous SID translation can provide sensitive information for accessing a system. Only authorized users must be able to perform such translations. Okay, so only certain users can be able to get the SID of the object. Okay, so for example, if I have a group, for example, in the Active Directory named accounting, I need to get its SID, so I need to translate the name to the SID. Okay, so this should only be done by certain users. Okay, so here in this group policy, we will not allow translation of names to SID unless it is for certain users. Okay, so allowing anonymous, it means everyone can translate a name to an SID. We should disable this policy. Okay, so we will only authorize certain users to translate names to SID. Okay, so SID, it's a unique or something called service identifier. Okay, every object in the Windows or every object in the Active Directory have an SID. Okay, for example, if you have a Windows 10 PC, okay, which is a local system, it's not connected to a domain or a network, users or local users or local groups or local computers, local users or groups on this Windows 10 has a name and an SID. The same applies to the Active Directory. Okay, anyway, so we need to also go and say allow anonymous SID translation is set to disabled. Okay, so we need to do this in the group policy. You can do this from the local group policy of the server, or you can create an Active Directory group policy and apply it to the servers, or to the servers that has Windows 10, has Windows Server 2019 system installed on it. Anyway, so we'll continue with the next recommendation. Here you must not allow anonymous enumeration of security account manager accounts. Okay, let's see the description. Anonymous enumeration of SAM accounts allow anonymous login users null sessions to list all account names, though providing a list of potential points to attack. So here is saying, what is the SAM? A SAM, it is a small database, or it's a file that stores all of the users and their passwords on a Windows operating system. Okay, so for example, if you have a Windows 10, this Windows 10 has a SAM account, or have a SAM database. This SAM database stores all of the users and their passwords of this Windows 10 system. Okay, so what's he saying here? He's saying that you remember that, or let's, for example, if you open a PC and then you log in for it, or you log in on it for the first time, you should be asked to provide a username and the password. Okay, but sometimes you go and log in, okay, you see some users listed. So if, for example, give you Karim, Ahmed, Muhammad, okay, all of these users are listed, and you are only given the field to put the password. So he is listing all of the users on the PC. Okay, and he is giving you only the option to put the password. This is very critical, and it should not be done. Okay, because here you are giving any anonymous user or any hacker trying to access this PC, you are giving him the list of the users on the PC. So this should not be done. Okay, every time the user logs into the machine, he should provide a username and a password, and all of the users on the system should not be listed to the user trying to access the machine. Okay, so anonymous enumeration of SAM accounts allows anonymous login users null session connections to list all account names, though providing a list of potential points to attack the system. Okay, so here here he is trying to tell here that you should not list the users when you log in. Okay, every user should put a username and a password, or if you are trying to elevate a user, also the users or the local user on the machine should not be listed. Okay, if you're trying to elevate a user and you are given a window to put a username and a password, you should not list the users on this machine, okay, and choose them and put the password. Anyway, so this is also enumeration of SAM accounts okay, allows anonymous login users null session connections to list all account names, though providing a list of potential points to attack the system. So I think we can let's see the description of it from our local group policy. If we go there and like GP edit, and let's see what is the description of this group policy. If you go to the Windows setting and then we go to security, and then we go to the local policy, and then security options, then let's go to the network server. Let's see here, network server. What's this group policy says? Allow anonymous. Okay, let's see here, network server. I think it's network server. No, network access. Network allow. Let's see here. Let's go and continue. Allow local users null session to fall back. No, allows here is allow anonymous SID. So here is saying, let's see the explanation. Determine whether an anonymous user can request security identifier attributes for another user. If this policy is enabled, an anonymous user can request the SID attribute for another user. An anonymous user with the knowledge of an administrator SID could contact a computer that has this policy enabled and use the SID to get the administrator name. This setting affects both the SID name translation as well as the name to SID translation. Okay, so here he's saying no, I think this is not what I'm talking about. This is the SID translation. We need the anonymous enumeration. Let's see here of do not allow anonymous enumeration of SAM accounts. This is the one. So here is saying that it's saying anonymous enumeration of SAM accounts allows anonymous user to perform certain activities such as enumerating the names of the domain accounts and network shares. This is convenient, for example, when an administrator wants to grant access to users in a trusted domain that does not maintain a reciprocal trust. So here the security allow additional restriction to be placed on the anonymous connection as follows. Do not allow enumeration of SAM account. This option replaces everyone with authenticated users in security permissions for resources. So here he's saying that anonymous users to perform certain such as enumerating the names of domain accounts and network shares. So here anonymous users will be given name or account or domain account names and network shares. If you are out of your network, for example, if you have a domain and there is another domain outside or an external domain trying to access some folders on your internal domain, so he will be given a list of the user of the domain accounts and the network shares. Anyway, this is very clear that users should not be, or you should not enumerate SAM accounts. Okay. Do not allow anonymous SAM account enumeration. So this is basically when you try to give access to users outside your domain to access folders on your domain. Okay, so if these users are trying to access these shared folders, they will be given the location of the shares, and they will be given domain accounts, or they will be given list of domain accounts that they can use to access these shared folders. Okay, so here this is very critical. We should not enable it, so we need to disable this kind of so we should use this policy or enable this policy. Okay, and this also allow enumeration of shares. This is another part. Any user outside your domain, okay, he can see a list of shared folders in your domain. So this should not be done. Any user outside your domain should not be given a list of all of your shared folders in the domain. Okay, allowing anonymous login users to list all account names and enumerate all shared resources can provide a map of potential points of attack. So we have two group policies. One, not to list the users in my domain to outside users, and this also group policy is not to list my shared folders to users outside my domain. Okay, so we are here restricting any user outside my domain should not be given a list of users inside my domain, or to be given a list of my network shared folders, okay, inside my domain. So this should be done, or we should be enable this policy. Do not allow anonymous enumeration of SAM accounts and shares. So this should be done for both. Okay, we should enable both group policies. Okay, and he's saying this will affect your performance. You should be aware. Okay, anyway, let's continue. Here must be configure anonymous users to have the same permissions as everyone group. We have said before that everyone group it's a group inside your domain or inside your local Windows system that includes everyone. It is very simple. Everyone, it's a group that includes everyone in the domain or everyone in the local Windows system. Okay, so here is saying that users outside your domain should not be given the permissions of everyone group inside your domain, okay, or inside your local system, because this is very critical. Sometimes everyone group has read permissions. So if any user outside your domain have a read permission like everyone group, this is a critical thing to do. So access by anonymous users must be restricted. If the setting is enabled, anonymous users have the same rights and permissions as the built-in everyone group. Anonymous users must not have the same permissions. Okay, anonymous users, here we are referring to users outside my domain. For example, as the explanation says, for example, if you have external domain and internal domain, there is no trust between them, and you need to let some people in the external domain to access things inside your internal domain. So they here are called anonymous users, the external users, okay, or the external domain users. Here also something called restrict anonymous access to name pipelines and shares. Also, users outside my domain should not see my SQL database locations and to see my shares as well. Name pipes, this is something, or it's an option related to the SQL. Okay, so this is in short terms a location of certain databases inside my SQL database. So we all know the SQL database can be divided to parts, or in SQL you can have multiple databases, okay, and they can be accessed using something called named pipelines. So these named pipelines should not be listed to anonymous users outside my network or outside my domain, and the same as the shares. Okay, so all of the previous group policies restrict listing of internal domain resources, something like network shares, domain accounts and databases, not to be listed to users outside my domain or anonymous users outside my domain. Okay, so this is very critical, and this is logic, by the way. So all of these are to restrict access of users outside my domain to resources inside my domain. Okay, so this is also a good thing to know. Restrict anonymous access to name pipelines and shares. So this is also to be said here. Anonymous access. So let's here say not define the template. Yes, here it goes. Setting to enable. Restrict anonymous access to name pipelines and shared. This is to be enabled, but this is not the one. Access to pipelines. I think this is not the one. Not anonymously. Okay. No, not this one. I think here we will not let anyone access pipelines or shareds. So let's continue here and see the other recommendations. I think this is not the correct one. I think this is the one we need to change. This restrict. This is the one. I think I have changed the different one. This is not it. Shares can be accessed anonymously. No, we should not do this. So all of these. So by the way, this group policy is related to this one and related to this one. So we need to disable this one and disable this one. So this to restrict anonymous access to pipelines, and this is restrict access to anonymous shares or restrict anonymous users to access shared folders, and this is to restrict anonymous users to access pipelines, and this one is to access both or combine both. Okay, so we need to do this and do this and do this. Okay, this is also listed in the PDF. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, and this is the one that combine both. Okay, this restrict anonymous access to pipelines and shares. So you need to individually play with the previous two group policies and combine them in this group policy. And then we go to the next recommendation. Using local system that use negotiate when retrieving NTLM authentication must use the computer identity instead of authenticating anonymously. Services using local system, this is a user in the Windows 10 or Windows Server that use negotiate when reverting to NTLM authentication may gain unauthorized access if allowed to authenticate anonymously versus using the computer identity. So I think here I do not understand this one. So let's see the description of this group policy in our local group policy console. Those negotiate when reverting to NTLM authentication must use the computer identity instead of authenticated anonymously. So let's see here, allow local. Let's see here this one. Let's say the explanation. Okay, I need to see the explanation of this. So let's go to the local group policy and see what does it say. If we go there and go to the network security, we can go there and security and then local and then security options and then network security. Network security, minimum session, network security. Here is network security. Allow local user to use computer identity. Here, allow local system, this is a user in the Windows, to use computer identity for NTLM. NTLM, it is a protocol to authenticate a user to the domain, or a local user to the Windows operating system. Let's see, this policy allow local users services running as local system will negotiate computer. This is can cause some authentication requests between Windows operating system to fail and log an error. Anyway, here is saying that allow local system, this is a user in Windows, to authenticate itself to the domain using the computer identity. Okay, so here is saying that the NTLM will authenticate the user to the domain by using the computer identity, not the user identity. Anyway, I do not understand this group policy very well, but we will go, but make sure that you test this group policy very careful. Okay, here the next one must prevent NTLM from falling back to null session. NTLM sessions that are allowed to fall back to null may gain unauthorized access. So here is NTLM. It is a protocol used to authenticate users to the domain or authenticate users to a local system. Anyway, it's not used frequently. The one is used as Kerberos. Anyway, he's saying that prevent NTLM from falling back to null session. This is a thing, okay, or is a group policy that we need to disable, because a hacker can use it to authenticate himself to the domain. Okay, this is very in short. Okay, we do not need. And the previous group policy also, it's something related to authentication a process. A hacker can use both group policies. If they are not enabled, he can use the NTLM protocol used for authentication to gain access to the system. Okay, so we need to disable, or sorry, we need to enable both group policies to prevent a hacker from using NTLM protocol to authenticate his user or his PC to the domain. Okay, so this is a thing we need to concentrate on. So I think here I will go, and because I didn't know what this means, so I think I will go to the internet and see what does this group policy means. Okay, because actually I was a little bit not familiar with the group policy itself. So I have gone to the internet and searched for it. So let's see what I have reached. I need to see what, if there is a good explanation to tell us. So I didn't recognize it, or I was not able to see a good explanation for this group policy. Anyway, so we will use the next group policy here. This is to disable. Okay, this we need to disable this group policy and to enable the other one to secure our authentication system. Okay, here you must prevent PKUTU authentication using online identity. This is a protocol used to authenticate users to the domain using their online identities, something like your email address or something. Okay, so peer-to-peer, or this is called PKU. T2U is a peer-to-peer authentication protocol. This setting prevents online identities from authenticated to domain join system. So you can authenticate yourself or join the domain or access the domain not by your domain account, but with your Hotmail account or something like this. Okay, so authentication will centrally managed by Windows user accounts. Okay, so you will not be able to access the domain using your online identity. You should only access the domain using your local identity or local user identity, or the domain or the Active Directory identity. Okay, so this also should be noted. Okay, so you should disable this group policy. And then here we go to our main authentication protocol, Kerberos. The Kerberos is the main protocol used to authenticate users and computers to the domain. we must prevent the use of DES and RC4 encryption suites. So a Kerberos authenticate the users to the domain, okay, and computers, and protect the data sent from the clients to the domain controller. Okay, how this done? By encrypting the data. Okay, so he's saying that Kerberos should use a stronger type of encryption suites to encrypt the data between the clients and the domain controller. He's saying that certain encryptions are no longer considered secure. DAS and RC4 suites must not be used for Kerberos encryption. Organization with domain controllers running earlier versions of Windows where C4 encryption is enabled, selecting the other domain supports Kerberos AES encryption on domain trust may be required to allow client to across the trust. So here is saying that some earlier version of Windows still supports RC4 or cannot work, or the Kerberos protocol cannot work in these earlier versions of Windows without the encryption RC4 suite. Okay, so this can have some effect if you are working with earlier versions of Windows that does not support AES encryption. I think he's saying here, because this is the one used with the Kerberos, so he's saying that you still can use the RC4 but it's not secure. So here we will go and define what are the Kerberos encryption suites that are used: AES 128 and AES 256-bit and AES 128, and future encryption types. So these are only the encryption suites allowed to be used with the Kerberos. Okay, so let's see this. So here we will choose define, we will choose the type of protocols encryption suites used with our Kerberos protocol. Okay, so, and sometimes the domain trusts also are done using the Kerberos protocol and these encryption suites. Okay, you may require to allow system or not. I think I need to see this a little bit here again. So here is saying that on domain trust may be required to allow client communication across the trust relationship. No, I think this is running earlier versions. RC4 is enabled, selecting the other domain supports Kerberos AES. So the other domain that you are making trust with should support AES encryption protocol. Okay, so users from the other domain can communicate with your internal domain. So both domains, internal and external domain, should support Kerberos protocol. Okay, so support Kerberos protocol, the encryption suite AES. Okay, anyway, so another recommendation, Windows Server must be configured to prevent storage of LAN Manager hash of passwords. LAN Manager hash uses a weak encryption algorithm, and there are several tools that are available to retrieve account, but this setting controls whether a LAN Manager hash of password is stored in the SAM the next time the password is changed. So it is something related to the SAM. The SAM, this is where the users and passwords are saved, and the LAN Manager hash is, I think this is a way to encrypt the users and passwords in the SAM. So the SAM, it's like a small database that contains all of the users and their passwords that are used to access a Windows operating system, or the users and passwords to access the PC that has joined the domain. Okay, so the SAM saves the local users and the Active Directory users. Okay, so these users and passwords are encrypted using LAN Hash Manager. He's saying here that LAN Hash Manager uses a weak encryption algorithm. Okay, and there are several tools to hack this encryption. So I think here we are telling, or this group policy says, that these passwords should not be encrypted using LAN Hash Manager. Okay, prevent storage of LAN Hash Manager hash of passwords. So here it is basically saying that we need to not use LAN Hash Manager method to encrypt the usernames and passwords in the SAM database. Okay, so saying prevent storage of LAN Hash Manager hashes of password. Okay, so this is the encryption that uses a weak encryption algorithm. So is saying that we should not use this method, or should not save the passwords and encrypt them using the LAN Hash Manager. Anyway, so you would not store hashes or something here, hashes related to the passwords. Anyway, so let's continue. Here we have LAN Manager authentication level must be configured to send NTLM version 2 response only and to refuse LM and LTLM. The Kerberos authentication is the default authentication of users who are logging into the domain. This is the default authentication protocol. NTLM is less secure. It's retained in Windows earlier version, so it is used in earlier version of Windows with clients and server that are running earlier version of Windows application that's still in use. It is also used to authenticate logins to standalone computers that are running earlier version. So NTLM is an earlier, or it's an old authentication protocol used with earlier version of Windows, and earlier version of Windows that are joined a domain, or earlier version of Windows that are standalone. Okay, so he's saying if you will use the NTLM protocol, if you will not use Kerberos and you have only, or if you do not support the Kerberos version 5 protocol and you need to use the NTLM, so you should use a secure version of it. It's called NTLM version 2. Okay, it's saying here LAN Manager authentication level must be configured to send NTLM response only and to refuse LM and NTLM. I think LAN Manager, what is the LAN Manager? Let's see here. Windows LAN Manager. Okay, LAN Manager was a network operating system available for multiple vendors and developed by Microsoft in cooperation with 3Com Corporation. It was designed to succeed 3Com plus share network server software with RAN laptop heavily modified. Anyway, this is not okay, let's see what is LAN Manager. This is, I think, it will be okay. LAN, it is a suite of Microsoft security protocols intended to provide authentication, integrity, and confidentiality to users. NTLM is the successor to the authentication protocol in Microsoft LAN Manager. Successor, okay, so it was used before. Okay, it's NTLM. This is LAN Manager. Okay, so this is referring to the Microsoft protocol. Okay, he's saying that the NTLM protocol is implemented, which combines the LAN Manager authentication protocol. Anyway, so I think the NTLM, it is a combination of some protocols. One of them is the LAN Manager. Let's see what is the LAN Manager, because this is the one I'm talking about. LAN Manager. Okay, it's an operating system developed by Microsoft. It originally uses the SMB protocol, either inherited from previous. Okay, anyway, so this is LAN Manager. I don't know what is LAN Manager. So password hashing algorithm, LM or LAN Manager, is computed as follows. The user password is restricted to maximum 14 characters. The user password is converted to uppercase. Anyway, this is an encryption way. Anyway, so this is, or say that LAN Manager, or here is saying that the NTLM protocol, okay, should use a secure version, NTLM version 2. Let's see how much time we have. Okay, so we should use NTLM version 2 protocol if our system does not support, or our Windows does not support Kerberos version 5. Okay, so let's go and configure this. Okay, so here we need to send version 2 respond the last one, refuse. Okay, anyway guys, I don't know much about security, but I'm trying to search the internet and get the data. But we will use this and also take care to test these protocols and these group policies, because they are very critical. Okay, they can affect the way users log into the domain. So if it's not configured correctly, some users will not, or all users will not be able to join to log into the domain. Anyway, he's saying Windows Server 2019 must be configured to at least negotiate signing for LDAP client signing. This setting controls the signing requirements for LDAP clients. This must be set to negotiate signing or require signing depending on the environment and type of LDAP server in use. LDAP, it is a way, we have said before, what is LDAP? So we need to secure, this is what is LDAP. Okay, here it is. So what is LDAP? How does it works? Okay, here we say here that LDAP, it is a protocol that makes it possible for applications to query information, user information rapidly. So for example, if you need to get data from the Active Directory or query the Active Directory to get certain data from the Active Directory, a certain username for a user or a certain attribute from the Active Directory for a user, this you should use the LDAP. Okay, someone within your office wants to do two things: send an email to a recent hire and print a copy of a conversation on a new printer. LDAP makes both of these steps possible. Okay, so what is LDAP? Companies store username, password, email addresses, printer connections, and other static data within directories. LDAP, it is an open vendor neutral application protocol for accessing and maintaining that data. LDAP can also tackle authentication, so users can sign on just once and access many different files on the server. Okay, so LDAP is a protocol. So here is saying this is a protocol used to query or to query certain systems to get data. Okay, one of them is the Active Directory, so we need to secure this protocol. Okay, so we need to secure this protocol. If you are using LDAP to get data from the Active Directory, this protocol should be secure. Okay, so let's continue guys. Here we need to secure the LDAP. So if you are using, for example, if you are on a machine and this machine will query the Active Directory or the domain controller to get some data, it will use the LDAP. Okay, so the sending of data between the client and the domain controller using the LDAP should be signed and should be secure. So here we are signing the data sent between the client and the domain controller using the LDAP protocol. The same is done, if you remember guys, we use this when we are using the SMB protocol, but the SMB protocol is used to access files and folders remotely. Okay, so anyway, we will continue working with this one. So here LDAP client signing requirements, negotiate signing at minimum. So for example, if it's not available, or if you cannot sign data sent to the domain controller using the LDAP, at least you should negotiate. Okay, there is something called require signing. Okay, anyway, and then he's saying here that NTLM SSP based client must be configured to require NTLM version 2 session security and 28-bit encryption. Okay, so here is saying Microsoft has implemented a variety of security support providers for use with remote procedure call sessions. All of the options must be enabled to ensure maximum security level. So here is saying that remote procedure call, it is a protocol used to connect remotely to machines and servers. Okay, so to secure this protocol we should use NTLM encryption 128-bit. So he's saying that if you are using RPC protocol to connect to servers and workstations remotely, you should use NTLM with 28-bit encryption. I think he's saying that NTLM SSP based clients here, I think he's saying that the clients using NTLM SSP, what is NTLM SSP? Just a moment. Okay, NTLM SSP. What is SSP? NTLM, a binary messaging protocol used by Microsoft to facilitate NTLM challenge response authentication and to initiate integrity and confidentiality options. Anyway, so this is a message protocol used by the NTLM. Okay, so he's saying that if you are using the NTLM protocol, you should use, here in brief, you should use NTLM authentication protocol. It should use 128-bit encryption. So we should use NTLM version 2 for more secure, for securing our authentication protocol and securing it, I think, by encryption. And here we should also use much harder encryption, which is 28-bit encryption. So here is saying this one. So let's see how we can do this. So we'll go and tell him we should he's saying here minimum, just a moment, saying minimum session security for an LTLM based including secure RPC client. So it is saying that when you're using NTLM version 2 protocol for authentication, or using it to connect remotely, I think, to a machine. Anyway, he's saying that including secure RPC clients. So he's saying clients using NTLM or clients using secure RPC, okay, they should use 128-bit encryption. Okay. I think here, let's see what is the explanation of this group policy. So here we can see this, and just here. Okay, let's go here and go to the Windows setting and go to security based local security options. Here what is the NTLM security, LDAP required session LTMM. This is one. Let's see the explanation. Allows a client to require the negotiation of 228 encryption and TLM session security. These values are independent. Anyway, will fail if it is negotiating. Anyway, so we'll continue working with this one. So enable it. Okay, let's go to the next recommendation. So we will check both, require NTLM session security and encryption. Here it's saying including RPC servers, so one is for the clients and the other is for the servers. Okay, one is for the clients and the other is for the servers. Applying the OK. So I think you need to stop here. This is the minute number 25. Let's see here. Okay, let's continue with this one. Windows Server users must be required to enter a password to access private key stores on the computer. If a private key discovered, an attacker can use the key to authenticate as an authorized user and gain access to the network infrastructure. The cornerstone of this is the PKI, the private key used to encrypt or digitally sign information. So we have discussed before that the PKI, it is a way to secure the authentication of a user to the domain. Okay, this is security is done using a certificate. Okay, and this certificate uses a key. Okay, so he's saying here that every time you enter a password to access private keys stored. So if you try to access the certification or the private key, you should store or you should put a password. Okay, I think this is it. Anyway, let's see this group policy. I need to see okay, here force strong key protection for user keys stored on. So here the certificate used on a machine, it should be secure. Okay, no one can access the certificate and get the encryption keys. Force strong key protection for user keys stored on the computer, or for the certification, I mean. Okay, let's see also this group policy. Okay, system cryptography, this one protection, and it's here define, and then let's tell him user must enter password every time to use a key. Let's see the explanation of this group policy. If we go there and run then GP edit, and then we can go and see Windows setting, security, local, and then security options, system cryptography, and then explain if user private keys require a password to be used. Okay, anyway, so I think we will stop at this minute 26:37 of this video. Informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.